All right. I like the sirens in the background as we begin the webcast. Hey, everyone, and welcome to today's webcast, No MBA Required, How to Engage Your Business Community, brought to you by Library Journal and sponsored by Gale. My name's Joshua Bean with Library Journal, and I'll be your moderator. But before we begin, let's go over some housekeeping items. Your screen is completely customizable. You can resize any of the windows and move them around, so feel free to adjust as needed to get the most out of your desktop space. If you accidentally close any of the windows, you can bring them back up by clicking on the appropriate widget down at the bottom of your screen. If you have any questions for our presenters during the webcast, you can submit them through the Q&A window at any time, and we'll address those at the end of the webcast. A copy of today's slide deck and other resources from Gale are available for download in the resource list window, and you'll be able to download your CE certificate from the certification window once you've met the viewing requirements. You can tweet us at Library Journal with the hashtag GaleBiz. And if you experience any technical difficulties, just click on the help widget where you can find the system requirements and FAQs. And if that doesn't resolve your issue, just send us a note through the Q&A window. All right, so our presenters today, we have, hopefully I pronounce her last name correctly, Natalie Canestra, Business and Career Librarian with the Brooklyn Public Library. And we have Trevor Wynn, Business and Marketing Librarian with Clarkston Independence District Library. And we also have Angela Doolin, Project Manager with Gale. And with that, I'll hand things off to Angela, and she'll get us started on today's presentation. Take it away, Angela.
Thank you so much, Joshua, and thank you everyone for being here. My name is Angela Doolin, and I'm Gale's Public Library Product Manager for Small Business and Entrepreneurship. Since the COVID-19 pandemic struck, I'm sure many of you have experienced significant changes in the way that you serve your patrons and your small business communities. At libraries across the country, in-person services have been suspended or limited, and activities like on-the-ground programming or one-on-one research consultations have become phone conversations or have gone completely online. From the perspective of your local entrepreneurs, the pandemic has inflicted once-in-a-lifetime damage to their enterprises and their employees, which is why it's more important than ever that they know that they can partner with you, building a relationship with you and your community partners, something that gets seeded now and develops even after this pandemic is over. In a country and a continent where job stability and economic certainty feels increasingly tenuous for much of the population, particularly for those who are entering the job market for the first time or who work in industries like restaurant, retail, transportation, lodging, and fitness, you can be a driver of their success and growth. No MBA required. And with that, I'll turn things over to Natalie.
Great. Thanks very much, Angela. Thanks for having me. And hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Natalie Canestra. I am a librarian in the Business and Career Center for Brooklyn Public Library. And yeah, 20 minutes is not a lot of time to impart a lot of wisdom to you. So I will do my best. And please, I apologize at the start for my fast talking. The first thing I want to say is that I truly believe that business and career services are the most important services a library can offer its community. I would never make that statement to a group of children's librarians, but I know that you all understand where I'm coming from, and I love getting up every day knowing that what I do can actually contribute to the economic well-being of my community. I also want to address the pandemic right off the bat. Just like Angela said, we are all incredibly stressed out, frightened. We are, as well as our businesses. We're seeing our small businesses close every day in our communities. but I also am starting to see, hopefully everyone else's, a light at the end of the tunnel. I feel that we have a great opportunity as business librarians to help people as we start to come out of the pandemic. And just a quick reminder that Brooklyn Public Library started our business plan competition in direct response to 9/11 as something to do to help our business community. And I think we will have that opportunity again right after the pandemic kind of winds down, hopefully soon. So just a little bit about myself. I do not have an MBA. I have never owned a business. I've had a lot of jobs, and the one that I feel is most relevant to what I do today, I spent 8 years as a researcher at Forbes magazine. Why I bring that up to you today is that when I took that job, I was actually quite naive about business, and I was a little worried about it. I thought it would be incredibly dull, and the one thing that I took away from it is that it's not dull at all. It was very exciting. I loved to do research about all the businesses that impacted my life. So I learned how to research, the music industry, film, everything to do with entertainment. Sports is a business industry, food and beverage, travel. And I just wanted to say, when you start working with your business communities, you're going to be amazed at all of the creative ideas that they have, that they come up with to better their neighborhoods, and I really enjoy working with that community. So not anything that you need as a background, but that is my background. So what's so special about Brooklyn? We are a large library system. Many of you probably have heard of us. There are over 2.5 million people living in Brooklyn. Not all of them have library cards, for certain. We would love that. But any one of them can walk in off the street to one of our 59 branches and ask a business question. We also have people visiting us from all over New York City. And certainly now during the pandemic, with all of our virtual programming, people are visiting us from all over the country. I just chose these 4 photos to really demonstrate the diversity of Brooklyn, and that is our greatest strength and the reason why it's exciting to work and to live in Brooklyn. I just went with the hipster Williamsburg picture. I have the Orthodox community in Borough Park. I have a very traditional bodega in East New York, and then just a non-traditional way to take your wares and sell them in Brooklyn. So these are some of the things that are special about Brooklyn, but again, it really is a diversity that makes us a great place for business and to work here. So what I wanted to tell you as far as Brooklyn Public Library stats, they tell us that there are at least 24 languages spoken in our branches. And after English, the most common ones are Spanish, Chinese, Russian, and Haitian Creole. 37% of our users are foreign born. And the reason I bring up these stats is that New York City Small Business Services tells us that immigrants are twice as likely than native residents to start their own businesses. And almost half of New York City small businesses are run by immigrants. They add to the jobs in our communities, and they really make up the unique identity of all of our neighborhoods. So the last thing that I wanted to mention that you're probably dealing with in your communities as well is still always this unequal access to technology. This is a big issue for us. Our communities, there are many neighborhoods that have that are lacking in internet access. This is unfairly, on the shoulders of lower income people, of minority groups, people with less education, and these are users of the library. And what's really upsetting to us over these past 10 months of not being fully open is we're worried about losing these customers and losing them because they do not have virtual access to us. So you all may be experiencing the same thing in your neighborhoods. So let's talk about our small business services. As I mentioned, I am located in the Central Library of Brooklyn, but we do have 59 branches. And you can walk into any branch, and we don't expect the same level of service at all 59 branches for business. Many times people may just be sent to go to the Central Library, but we do offer training on how to answer business questions to any of our interested staff who want to attend that. We are regularly making announcements to our staff. These are new resources we have or programs that we're doing. We do work with the individual branches to place business programming there because we think their community might best use a particular type of program. So we'll set up programs in the different branches. And of course, most recently, we're really improving our online presence so that everyone, not just in the branches, but all over the borough and further, knows what we can do for small businesses. So what types of questions are they asking and who's coming to us? Both startups and existing business owners do use our services. I think because of the nature of things, obviously for existing businesses, they're working 24/7 on those businesses. It is really hard to get them to come to the library. Sometimes they stumble upon us when they're here for a children's program or something else with their family. And so we really have to do more outreach and offer more programs to get the existing businesses to know what we offer. Much more common, we get startup questions when people come in and just say, hey, I've got this idea. What are my next steps and how can you help me? So we get both of those questions. And then just this slide real quickly, we're going to go into detail in numbers 1, 2, and 3. Some of you may wonder why I have number 4 on this list, encouragement, but it is really something that we consider very important to Brooklyn Public Library because most of the people who come visit us and use our services, they're not well-connected people. They don't have big networks. They don't have people who want to fund their businesses. They come into us and they're often solo entrepreneurs, or maybe they have a partner, and we're the ones that are telling them, yes, you can do this. This is how we're going to help you. So we consider it a very important part of our jobs to be encouraging to everyone who comes in. So let's talk first. I mentioned referrals right away, and I want to talk about the importance of partnerships. And you'll notice on all my slides, I tried to put this little coronavirus asterisk to remind me to tell you not just about partnerships, but really how they have changed now during the pandemic and the importance of them. So we have an internal discussion quite often. What do we consider a partner? Is a partner, what does the relationship have to be like? Does that group have to actually do a program, or is it just about exchanging information with another organization? And we've kind of landed on that there are different levels of partnerships. And one of the most important ones I want to point out has to do with mentorship and advice. So a regular question we get in the library will be really someone looking for advice from us. And so someone will come in and say, I'm trying to decide on the legal structure for my business. How can you help me with that? And right away as a librarian, I tell them, here are our NOLO books on legal structures. You might want to watch a video on Linda to learn about legal structures. I myself have learned a bit just from attending every program that the library has ever offered for small business. So I know a little bit about tax implications, maybe for your legal structure, and I might know some other things about liability of ownership. But I do not sit down with the patron and give them advice. This should be your legal structure. So I love that we have partners where I could say, hey, we work with an organization called NELP, the Neighborhood Entrepreneur Law Project. Sounds like you need to make an appointment to meet with one of these volunteer lawyers to talk about this issue. And without them, our patrons would be disappointed that Natalie is not telling them exactly what legal structure I should have. So most of you are very familiar with SCORE because it's a national organization. We do work closely with them. They offer mentorship to small businesses, and we actually have them working out of the Central Library 3 days a week, which is really wonderful because you don't lose the customer or patrons by saying, okay, now go, visit another location for an appointment. So it's nice to have that. So that's one example of a partnership. We're sharing our space with them, actually. Other examples of partnership we do, and maybe one that's a little less kind of strict. If someone reaches out to us, an organization somewhere in Brooklyn, and says, hey, we'd like the Business and Career Center to come to, we're having an open house to let our members know about different services. We know Business and Career Center would be great for them. So we always take those opportunities to go out to those open houses, tables, speak about what we do. But there, we're trying to get more customers from them and sharing our information. but they're actually, maybe in the future, I'll invite them. Once I've been out there, I'll say, okay, now this is someone to remember to bring to a program for the library. Examples of other partnerships that work really well for us, we work closely with New York City Small Business Services. One of the great things they do is they have classes for business owners that are in multiple different languages. So they may come to us and say, hey, we've got 3 classes in Russian for, how to, build your audience or your website. Can you place this somewhere? So we'll contact our neighborhood branch that has a lot of Russian speakers and be able to set that up. New York City Small Business Services also offers a great program. It's a 10-week program called Fast Track. And one is for new ventures, one is for growth ventures, and they also are looking for space. Do you have communities in Brooklyn where you think a lot of people may come to this class, they'll say to us. And we love that, and if we can place them, we do. But what we decided to do for that program is we said, you know what, the librarians should be teaching one of your classes. We should teach you, your students, market research. And this way, we get people to sign up for library cards, we get to show off our great resources, and that has worked really well for us. Another example of partnerships, how we've used them, is we had this great idea to do a full day event called Celebrate Small Business in Brooklyn. And we wanted to have a keynote speaker, panelists, breakout rooms with all sorts of topics to help people learn about marketing and pricing. And we realized even with all of our connections, we really needed to bring a partner in to help us. We need more instructors. We want to have a greater audience, so more promotion. So we partnered with SCORE, and then we brought in We NYC, which is for women entrepreneurs. And we've been able for the past 4 years to really offer a wonderful program, Celebrate Small Business in Brooklyn. It went virtual this year, and to everyone who has gone and done your programs virtual, I give you all sorts of kudos because I know it was stressful at first with the technology, but we feel we've been successful at the virtual programs. Another thing to keep in mind is right now, all of our partners, they're still trying to meet their numbers. They still have quotas of people they have to serve. So they're reaching out to us with creative ideas of what we can do during the pandemic. So we had one partner reach out and say, hey, would you like to, maybe we could take over your social media account so that people can be reminded that we're still here. We've reached out to some of our partners and said, hey, can we, get in on one of your meetings to remind your staff members what exactly we do and what our resources are. So that's a couple things we've been doing during the pandemic times. So a little bit about online resources. I believe I was invited to speak today really because I manage the online resources for the Business and Career Center. And when I say those online resources, I'm talking about the fee-based databases that you see all the icons on the screen right now. But of course, keep in mind that our online resources are everything we offer through our website, and we have totally upped our game during this pandemic. We went back through all of our LibGuides, and I have the examples here on the right under subject guides, and made sure they were up to date and robust because we knew this is how people were accessing our information. But it includes our catalog, our ebooks. We decided to put our program recordings on our website. So we thought, we record the Zoom programs, let's get those on our website too. What I want to mention to you about the online resources, the fee-based resources specifically, I'm sure this happened to a lot of you right when we decided to close our libraries, right? Believe it or not, we had resources that were only accessible in one location at the Central Library. And we learned a great lesson when the pandemic hit, which is that's just not going to work for us. And so I went about contacting all of those vendors who said, you know what, this resource is only for Central. We won't allow remote access. And I said, this is our situation. We need to make something happen. And many of them were quite generous and changed our subscriptions into remote access. And I'm sure many of you know what I'm talking about if you had these conversations as well. And some of them actually said, no, we won't do that. It's only Central. That's all we can do. And we honestly let some of our subscriptions lapse. And we said, hey, we'll consider picking this up again when we reopen. But to be honest, I'm extremely hesitant to do that. We're in a new world, which is virtual. And people expect our services to be virtual. And I think we should all band together when we're talking to our vendors and say, it's got to be remote or we can't do it. So that's what I want to say about online resources. Just checking my notes and my time. I have about 5 minutes left to talk to you about programming. And so Brooklyn Public Library does a ton of programming. This is a photo of that Celebrate Small Business program I was talking about. We get a lot of people to show up. And remarkably, I've been really pleased that our Zoom programs are very well attended, even more so than they were in person, right? There's less trouble to get on the subway and come to the library. But of course, we are missing our regular customers who just don't have that technology. What I'll mention from this slide before I move on is my favorite part of programming are the one-on-one assistance. While we don't give advice as librarians, we give advice on research. And so we'll have one-on-one book a librarian appointments to teach people how to use our resources and how to do research for their businesses. Has a lot to do with market research. And I miss those. While we're still offering those appointments via Zoom, we have fewer people taking us up on them than we did in person. But with the last bit of my time, I really want to talk to you about these two programs, Brooklyn Public Library, the Power Up Business Plan Competition and the Fashion Academy. And I chose both of these for my own reasons, but Power Up is a cornerstone for us. We just had our 17th annual award ceremony. It is a business plan competition. Even if it seems old school to you, everyone wants to do a pitch or you don't think you need a business plan anymore. We all know, if you do the research, that a business plan actually can tell you if you're going to succeed, or as well as possible can tell you, before you dedicate all of these resources, all of your money to your business. It's best to do your research first. So we really believe in this competition. Everyone that goes through the competition, whether they win or not, and they can win up to $20,000 to start their business. And so this is the type of program that definitely needs funding, and it's a lot of work to maintain that funding. But everyone who goes through the competition really appreciates the structure that we provide to really understand their business and how to succeed. Now, the reason I want to mention the Fashion Academy to you is that this is a relatively new program, and what I hope it can do is inspire you to see a need in your community, whatever it might be, and go for that program. Take the thing that excites you the most and try to create a program around this. So how the Fashion Academy came about is two of my colleagues who are not librarians, who have an interest in fashion, and they went through the BPL has an incubator program to try to get us to be creative. It's one of the wonderful things for working for Brooklyn Public Library. You can suggest, they want you to think creatively and suggest anything and go for it. And so my colleagues suggested the Fashion Academy when they recognized a pain point within the fashion community, which was you could go to FIT in Manhattan, you can go to Pratt Institute in Brooklyn as a designer and come out and still not succeed as a fashion designer to sell your product. You don't know how to work with manufacturers, for example, to make this happen. So my two colleagues took this idea, they took it to instructors at both of those institutions, and they found mentors, they found people who were super excited and believed in the idea as well and said, you're right, this is a problem in the community. And what about people who don't go to school? They can't go to FIT or Pratt, but they are designers at home. So we created a program with a lot of mentors and classes for designers, not just on design, but to learn the business aspects of fashion so that you can actually sell your fashion when the academy is over. It does not culminate in a prize. Nobody wins a prize, but you do have a fashion show at the end. And that small picture is us turning the Central Library into a runway. And this year, both of our programs, Power Up and Fashion Academy, had to go completely virtual. And we were able to have our final fashion show recorded through lots of people who volunteered their time and their equipment. And if you're interested in checking it out, it'll be on February 12th. And you can sign up to see that program and learn a bit more about it through our website. And I think I've done it. I think I've said everything I need to say in 20 minutes, and I apologize for speaking so quickly. If you have questions, please go ahead and chat them in. You can contact me here at this address. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. And now I'm going to pass it over to Trevor Wynn. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Trevor Wynn. Thank you, Natalie. Your timing was on point. You couldn't have done it more perfectly. So that's amazing. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this afternoon. I'm coming to you from Southeast Michigan. I work at the Clarkston Independence District Library in kind of the furthest point of what is considered Metro Detroit. Our community is very different from that of Natalie's, but a lot of the things that we do with small business are very related. And so it was nice to see a lot of the same themes that I experienced here in Clarkston. I work in a district library. We serve about 35,000 people. There's a township and a village within it. If you walk down downtown, it's kind of the epitome of small town America. We have a historic district, a thriving small business community that's known for its restaurants, among many other things. And it really kind of makes Clarkston the city that I like working in, and why everyone kind of flocks here, especially on the weekends. We're a bedroom community, but there are obviously a lot of small businesses. I want to just point out real quick that at the ad, for the webinar, it mentioned the guide. It's also called, no MBA required. And when Gail approached me about writing this guide, they really wanted to focus on small and medium-sized public libraries, especially those libraries who might be interested in serving the small business community, but maybe they're not really sure how to start, or you don't have a business librarian on staff or business information person. And that's totally okay, because as Natalie said, you certainly don't have to have an MBA. I don't either. And so a little bit about kind of how I got to where I'm at. I became a business librarian in 2012, kind of by accident. It wasn't necessarily a job goal of mine as I was in grad school. And I had to learn a lot on the job. So at the time I worked for moderately large, district library system with 19 branches. Where I'm at now is just a single branch. And so I was serving the whole county, everything really except the city of Flint. And I had the business and personal finance and career resource, responsibilities. And I really learned on the job. And so the guide is really written, from my perspective as a new person who had to learn. If I had to tell a newbie in the business information world kind of, hey, here are some best practices that I learned on the job, that's really what, the guide is meant to be. So I hope you take an opportunity to download that. There's lots of good ideas in there, a lot that Natalie and I could not, have time to share with you today. And so I have no formal business training. And when I say that, I mean, it wasn't a major in college. It wasn't a minor in college. I really came to it from scratch, which was a little kind of crazy. I felt like I was in over my head for a while. But over time, I kind of, with a lot of help from other librarians here in Michigan and around the country, I really came to love it. And it's so valuable, and it's really been so rewarding. And I think it's a great opportunity for your library to not only create a niche, but to kind of, stand out and build those connections that are really going to come back to you tenfold. And all those patrons who maybe aren't regular library users, I don't know that a lot of the business community, maybe some in your community know that you can offer those and some don't. But it's a great way to, introduce the business community into what the library is doing already. It's a great way to bring those people into the building. And so in 2017, I transitioned into the position I have now. I'm also half of the marketing department here at the library, which I love, and it really pairs well with my job, which involves a lot of outreach. It's probably one of the most, fun things I get to do here in Clarkston, as I get to meet with, different businesses. I'm active in our Chamber of Commerce. I'm an ambassador for the Chamber of Commerce, so I'm out there kind of talking about chamber events. I'm in a lot of networking events. And it's really good PR for the library to basically be, in the business community saying how much we value, what they're doing and that we want to help you succeed. And so when I kind of started this, I didn't really know who the business patron was. And so I think we default, to maybe the person who has a storefront or the person who, is a sole proprietor, they own their business. But a lot of who I work with now are also just working professionals. They might not own their business, but they are working for a company, or maybe they're selling things online. It's very diverse now. And so both of these groups, in my experience, really make up the business community and a lot of the people that I work with. And so you see on the left, some of the things that that the small business owner might really want. Like Natalie touched on some of these. And really the library is well positioned to do some of this, especially with the partners, that Natalie and I will outline. And so they really don't know where to start. Early on in my career, I worked with a lot of people who came in, they didn't know where to start. And as Natalie said, they really need encouragement. They really needed someone to sit down with them and have that really valuable one-on-one interaction, because they're really just not sure who to talk to. And the fact that they reach out to the public library says a lot about the position that we have in our communities. It's really valuable. It's a really valuable position that we have. So the legal assistance that Natalie also mentioned, the market research, as she said, librarians are great at this. But as I outlined in the guide, you really don't have to be an MLS librarian to take on, business services. It really can, be done well by someone who is just really curious. They're outgoing. They like to talk to people. They like to find out what people need, and they're willing to look, because business research, it can be a little scary at times, especially if it's kind of like an area that you really don't have a background in. Natalie, like working at Forbes, had kind of an intro into that. I did not. I really kind of had to learn, from a lot of other people, which I found really valuable. Maybe they want to know, some traffic patterns. They're trying to figure out where to put their store, or whether it needs even to be a brick and mortar. And of course, the business counseling that she mentioned as well. So the bulk of the people that I work with now, which is really through our Chamber of Commerce in the local areas, are really the working professionals. They might not own their business, but they're looking for maybe, how do I grow my business? How do I, better promote it on Facebook and Instagram? I'm not really sure where to start. Can you help me? That's part of the reason that marketing is part of my job, because the director wanted me to know kind of how to do that, so I could, share some best practices that we use at the library with the small business community. Business development. This is huge. This is the one thing that, when I'm giving my elevator speech and I'm at a chamber event, this is what I go on. If you're looking for new clients, come and talk to me, because I can give you a spreadsheet of businesses or new homeowners in the area, and I'm not going to charge you. And, why do we do that? Because we're the public library and we're here to serve you. And this is something that, we really value. Physical meeting space is a really interesting one, because I think this is only going to grow with the pandemic, and a lot of offices and businesses just deciding that, maybe the brick and mortar isn't as important as they thought a long time ago. And, there's going to be probably a lot more people working at home. It's kind of up in the air, but the physical meeting space, I think, is going to become even more important. And that's something that was already really popular here, and being able to schedule that space. Because, if they're having a meeting, you walk into Starbucks or somewhere at your meeting time and it's full, you're kind of out of luck. And so the library, it's a great option, to have that kind of opportunity for them. And of course, networking, as Natalie shared, it is really valuable to have all the connections that we do in library land. And we're really good at making connections in our community. And that can really, benefit the business community, because as librarians, we don't need to know everything. We just need to know who to ask. And so we have a lot of connections, and the business community can really take advantage of that. So I really experienced kind of a shift change in how I spoke with business clients who would come to the business center and they would ask me some questions. And I very quickly realized that the language I was using, which is, like library language, really, maybe didn't resonate as well with the business community. And so if I'm at a business event or I'm at a chamber event and I'm talking with some people, I really need to change that. And so, if it's more clients, or, they're looking for space, looking for market research, hey, do you want to, are you trying to complete your business plan? Or, what kind of clients are you looking for? What kind of business problems, do you have? Every business owner I've ever met is more than happy to talk about their business. And that's a great opener. If you're brand new, tell me a little bit about your business. And then, you begin to talk, and then they're going to say things. You're going to go, oh, I can help you with that. Oh, that's interesting. I have a contact that might be able to help you with that. It's a really good way to get that conversation starting. Leverage the role the library has in the community. There are, from time to time, there is a person that I'm meeting with who maybe is a little skeptical because they're used to being sold to, and they're used to, kind of like a salesman, like sort of tactic. And really, I'm here to sell the library services, but that's it. Like as libraries, we're not looking for something in return. We are really just looking to help them. And so really try to leverage that, because while I haven't had a lot of pushback on, why are you doing what you're doing, it's really good to kind of remind people that, we're really here for the public good. A funny story. So we send letters to business community sometimes, especially new businesses, to tell them what the library is doing. And I once had a patron call me who had received my letter in the mail, and he was actually calling because he was concerned that there was someone impersonating the library, because the letter he got was evidently so foreign to him that we would provide these services, that he called and said, "Hey, I just want to let you know that, I got this letter," and I said, no, sir, I 100% do that every day. Call me if you'd like anything on the, that I've listed in the letter. So, that's a level of trust that people have placed in the library. A great elevator speech. As librarians, I think we already have lots of elevator speeches. We just don't call them that, and we just don't know that's what they are. Like when you're at an event, or you're going to the flea market, or you're at, the farmer's market, and the library has a stand, you're already trying to snag people's attention in 30 to 45 seconds. And that's really what you have to do with businesses. And so mine is always, hey, are you into lead generation? Do you pay to have any lead generation? Hey, I can send you a spreadsheet of, the new businesses in this area, and I can do it by industry. And they're like, okay, cool, because that's their call list, or, maybe they're going to go research which of those, businesses might be like a potential future client. And so it's kind of how I would, begin to kind of bridge that gap. And so Natalie also mentioned some of the data solutions. So if you're talking with businesses and you're kind of interested, there might be things that you need to add to your collection, database wise, but maybe not. It really depends. So this is another aspect of business librarianship where it can be a little overwhelming, and it's really going to totally be based on what your community needs. So Natalie works in a huge metropolitan area. There's just a lot of complexity and a lot of different types of situations going on that maybe I don't deal with. And so maybe I don't have as many of those resources that she does. Obviously, budget is totally an issue as well. And so I've listed a few on the screen. Of course, SBDCnet is a great, free resource for market research reports. I use them a lot when I didn't have access to formal reports. And so there are lots of them. And so I think some hidden gems, your library might already offer a directory database. If you have any of these and you're looking to kind of, dip your toes into business services, this is a great place to start because it's going to be budget neutral. And so this is what I promote actively at the chamber, because as we know, they have households, both, new movers and existing, and you can of course limit them a million different ways. And they also have businesses, and they also have new businesses. New businesses is something that I think is especially valuable, especially to the business people that I work with, because we all know that this information is not free online. And it can be very frustrating to try to Google around. And so in this case, the library, in one of many ways, is a lot better than Google, because it's going to give you targeted results, and it's going to be exactly what you need, and potentially limited by income or industry or area. I've had a lot of people say, I'd like to target the people who live around the golf course. Happy to do that. We can draw those lines. Here's that spreadsheet. Have fun. And we just save them hundreds or thousands of dollars with the directory database, but we're just kind of repurposing it and rebranding it and remarketing it specifically for the needs of the business community. And so this is a great option. If your library is also, trying to, maybe you don't have someone who can go out and do a lot of outreach, totally understandable. There's a lot of staffing issues. Actually, when I first started, I wasn't actually allowed to leave the building a lot because of those staffing issues. And so a lot of the partners, that I was in contact with really helped kind of spread the word. But another option is to use the directory databases that you might already have, and make those mailers. Use that list of small businesses to promote the library, and, use these for that as well. We do that all the time, especially to the new homeowners as well, just to promote, general library services. And so market research or industry research, I kind of use the terms interchangeably, but they're not technically the same. It's something that if maybe you're beginning to work with a few more and they're trying to really complete that business plan where you have to do, some industry analysis, or maybe you're trying to see who is my customer and you're trying to analyze, different things, you might want to invest in something like this. It might not be necessary, especially if you're just, sort of starting out, but it's an option. And so I have access. Just as for example, the First Research, which are market research reports. IBIS is great, but in our case, that's just probably a little bit too expensive. And so First Research works, pretty well for what I need. All right, so I really found the business resource aspect is particularly challenging because, like a lot of patrons, if you get an information request, the small business owner isn't necessarily going to be really specific, and they're probably not going to have a great idea of how the information is organized, because that's our job. And so you really have to kind of parse that and really try to manage their expectations on what's feasible and what you can do, obviously under your budget constraints, because sometimes the information just isn't available and packaged the way they want. So it's a lot of piecemeal. But there's a lot of help in this, in this regard. And so I really encourage you to take advantage of all these options here. Obviously the guide is a good place to start, especially if you're looking for ideas for, different programs or different resources. And there's also a number of published books, shout out to Celia Ross at the University of Michigan, and a number of others here. There's also, the section on business services at the ALA, and the listserv. The listserv is something that I've been on also since 2012. And even if you're working in a public library, I would say the majority of people on the listserv are in an academic setting. But I am continually amazed at the knowledge and experience that all the librarians on the list have. It's just, if this is something that you're going to do, kind of all the time, it's a great option. You can also ask questions, which is like one of the most valuable things we have, is to be able to ask each other questions. I've used it on a number of occasions as well as business librarians in my state. So, maybe you're not really sure where to start. A lot of universities have LibGuides, and so don't do the work twice. There are a lot of librarians who have spent their entire career, getting this information together, and really take advantage of that if you have a stumper. I love the stumpers. I love doing research. That's one of the reasons why I think it's fun and rewarding. And so early on, creating a referral engine was probably the single most valuable thing I did, because just like any referral engine, even if you're not out and about all the time, you still get questions and the email's still coming. And why? Because you've let the right people know exactly what you're doing and how you can help, either their organization or their nonprofit. And so, and you start to kind of make a name for yourself. Oh, Mary at this library, she's really good. I'm going to email her. And that's really what you want all these organizations in your area to do, to go, oh, Natalie in Brooklyn, I'm going to email her because she knows a lot of people. And I think even if she doesn't know, she's going to know who to ask. It's incredibly valuable, especially if you can't get out of the building a lot. And so as you're kind of looking around, partnering up and spreading the word was really, really, really valuable to me early on. And so you kind of have to do, like a little looking around, the organization that Natalie mentioned, I think they're coming up in an upcoming slide for me as well. You kind of need to see, who's active and who's not, because depending on your area, maybe there isn't a SCORE chapter really close, or there's a small business development center, maybe it's 50 or 60 miles away. And so maybe they would love to have someone who's a little bit closer to wherever you work to kind of be an arm for them. And then you can be a referral engine back and forth. So are they a competitor, or, can they be a partner? That really depends on the community and the organizations that are already there. I really took the view that I was looking to partner with groups. I was new, I was coming in, I wanted our library to be, something that they thought was a partner. And so I really looked for gaps. And so, maybe they need someone to refer people to when they have like a particularly challenging market research question. Maybe the person in the office, they're just really not comfortable with that. They're really not good at that, but they know the librarian over in Grand Blanc, where I used to work, can help you with that, and then really do that one-on-one. And so it's really valuable. And really try to fill those gaps because they're just going to see you as valuable and not as a competitor, as much as you can control that. So I really found that incredibly helpful. So these are some of the partners. I know Natalie already mentioned some of these. The SBA gives partial funding to SCORE, to the Veteran Business Outreach Centers, and to SBDC. They all get SBA funding. And so they're operational in most, if not all 50 states, probably all 50 states. And of course, your local Chamber of Commerce, if they don't know who you are, if they don't know what your library can do, let them know. I encourage you to attend a chamber event. They're a little scary at first, I'm not gonna lie. I can remember my first ambassador meeting where I'm sitting around going like, what am I doing here? I don't really know how this works. And yet they've become my friends over time. And it's, some of the most fun things I've been able to do is to work with the chamber. So these organizations, they all have websites. There's more information on them in the guide. They also offer free classes because there's things, like as Natalie mentioned, we can't provide the legal advice. We get them started, and maybe they need to go. Maybe they need to go take a free class somewhere, at SBDC. I did that a lot. There's a how to start a business class, and we refer people back and forth. They would come to me, oh, I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm really new with this. Can you help me? Yes, I can. You should go take this class first, and we work back and forth really well. Programs and outreach activities, my most favorite part. And so this doesn't mean that you have to spend a lot of money. And so here are just a few, low or no cost options. I love hosting chamber events. We've had some great, breakfast meetings, Young Professional Networks meetings here at the library. It's quiet, there's lots of space, and you really get to meet a lot of people and, kind of figure out what they need. SCORE Business Counseling is already hosted in public libraries across the country. If you're not doing that already, and there's a SCORE chapter in your area, or maybe you're just outside their area and there are a lot of people they get from there, the library's a great, neutral place to meet when we get to do that again, which is hopefully sooner than later. You might have to just market, some of your services a little bit different. Use different language if you're, like if you're posting on social media or you're sending a content contact out. See what, kind of response you get when, you'd be surprised how many businesses are looking for lead generation stuff, and they pay big money. And we have the same information for them and can give it to them for free. If your small business community doesn't have, full access to all your electronic resources, we really open up, our library card access to people who live in our area, obviously, or who own a business, because they're also invested. They pay their taxes just the same. And really, we really have, invited them in, and they really responded positively to that. So this is my last slide. This is a little bit bragging about my library, but it's also kind of the fruits of the labor of many years of investment in the community. Our library in 2019 and in the middle of the pandemic in 2020 was voted the best library in Southeast Michigan, essentially in Metro Detroit, which is a huge honor, and we were very excited about that. And so this is our director, Julie Meredith, on the left in tan, who's accepting a proclamation from our state representative. And in the picture behind her is a chamber board member, or some of our vendors, our board president, our friends president, because when I advertise an event, to the business community and say, hey, we're excited, I'm going to throw a big party. This is in 2019, obviously. They really show up. And when the business community knows, that the library is like appreciative of what they do and is actively trying to help them in any way they can, they really show up. And I found it so, encouraging and rewarding, to work with this group of people who have really become my friends here in small town America. And it's really just a great thing. So I really encourage you, if you've been thinking about it, there's no better time than 2021 to start, to reach out to this community. So thank you, everybody, for your time. And I think I am turning it over back to Angela.
Thanks so much, Trevor, and thank you, Natalie. Just the breadth and depth of what you both do is breathtaking, and especially now, given the additional challenges. Kudos to you for everything that you're doing to engage with your business communities. All right. So I'm going to talk real quick here, briefly about our Gale Business Plan Builder, which is a business planning resource that I think Natalie may have mentioned. I know Trevor mentioned Demographics Now, which we may touch on briefly. But basically, when people are attempting to plan for their businesses, I don't need to tell you, we live in an age of information overload, information dubiousness, for lack of a better term, and certainly iffy information literacy. And so to address the problem of having so much information and, not really knowing what to do with it when it comes to planning a business, Gale launched Gale Business Plan Builder with our partner out of the Chicagoland area, Designer Software. And we built it with the intent of helping you support small businesses in your communities. The Plan Builder approaches business planning with a coherent framework that is kind of missing from a traditional Googling or browse experience. We've grouped business planning and management activities into 5 basic steps. They are intentionally sequenced so that I think Natalie may have mentioned this earlier, you don't want people who are coming to entrepreneurship to waste valuable time on activities that they're not yet ready for. So we start with the entrepreneur profile, which essentially asks somebody who is new to entrepreneurship to consider whether they have the time, temperament, finances, and support to successfully launch their venture. Business ideation, the next step, asks entrepreneurs to flesh out their product or service idea and to consider it from several different standpoints. What makes it unique? Who are their competitors? Where are their customers? And so on. The third step is to do the break-even analysis to help the patron determine whether their product or service will turn a profit. And if so, at what point can they expect that to happen? And then if the patron gets through the first three steps, then it's probably a good time to write a business plan. You can launch a business without a business plan, but I don't recommend it. Our business plan templates guide entrepreneurs through questions that lenders typically ask when they are giving out bank loans. And the plan builder actually provides the output of a sort of a professionally designed business plan when you're finished with it. And then finally, financial projections allow small business owners, probably those who are already in business, model their finances up to 5 years into the future. While the plan builder provides these 5 prescribed steps and multiple activities within those steps, it doesn't limit the patron to that sequence. So for those who are already running a business and are looking to do, say, pandemic-driven scenario planning, or are thinking of other ways to pivot or change up their existing products and services, the resource allows them to jump into the tools and the content they need. Now, for beginners, the framework is a powerful tool on its own, but one thing we heard consistently from librarians is that they wanted the process of going through and building a business plan to be a little more self-driven. So we integrated links to 3 of our most popular business and legal resources for customers who subscribe to them, for libraries that subscribe to them. So those 3 are Gale Business Entrepreneurship, Gale Business Demographics Now, and Gale Legal Forms. But it should be noted that these links to the resources don't just appear here at a high level within the tool. We curated more than 400 specific links to tools, articles, and legal resources and placed them at the user's point of need. So by integrating the content with the framework, your patrons can learn many of the important basics on their own in a contextually meaningful way as they create artifacts for their enterprises. And with that, I will turn things back over to Joshua so we can answer some of your questions.
Okay, thanks, Angela. As we move into the Q&A, let's see. All right, so first up, I've got a question, and this is for Natalie. Let's see, Sue Pearson wants to know which market research database do you find the most useful?
Yes, thanks for asking that question, Sue. I had planned to say more, as it always happens with these presentations, and so thank you for bringing me back to that. So number one, it's really hard to recommend necessarily one over another because it really depends on your particular community, what your needs are, right? And what your budget is. Because I can say, I really love this one, but it costs a ton of money. So how do you make do without that? I'd also like to say, when you're looking for your online resources, try to find those that do double duty. So especially the market research ones, if you find something that covers, how to research your industry, plus covers company information, plus covers some demographics, that's really ideal, right? Just to make your budget go a long way. That said, I'll just give you some classics, right, that I don't think we could live without. So tomorrow, for example, if we get a phone call that budget is gone, it's done, I have in my mind already things that I know I think are essential to our online resource offerings. So, Reference USA, which is now called Reference Solutions, is a really easy to use platform for information about your competitors, to get information about companies. There's a good amount of private company data in there, although, it doesn't have every private company, so I like that. Plus, they have some different modules. They have for job search modules. They have a module about customers. So I like that you can get many things out of Reference Solutions, and it's a very traditional public library database that we've all had. On the other end of things, I would say, I love the Mintel academic reports, right? That's one of the vendors who told us, no, we're not going to give that to you as remote access. So we really have to rethink our future there. But as far as market research reports, what I love about them is they help our customers, our patrons, make connections. Some resources maybe just give you numbers about the size of a market, for example, but Mintel reports help them make the connections of how that's actually going to help you make decisions for your business. So I really love Mintel. It's very expensive. They're not allowing remote access. So it's questionable whether or not you need that in your collection, and it's certainly something we're thinking about. Maybe last minute, I would put in a plug for Statista. Is great for every type of statistic, especially when I can't find anything in another resource. And please go ahead and shoot me an email if you want to talk resources and vendors more. I'm happy to do that with you.
Very cool. Thanks, Natalie. And I've got another one. This one can be for Natalie or Trevor, if you want to chime in on this. What are some of the best programs to offer business owners?
So I think I also answered this person in the chat, but I mean, some good places to start are on some of the things that, libraries have already a really good handle on. So, for example, to do a market research class, or, something specific to, finding new customers, finding new households if they wanted to market directly in the mail. You could also bring in, one of the organizations if they're willing, eventually. SBDC, it could be virtual too, SBDC Score, and to do sort of like a joint thing. I've done this before with a veterans group, where essentially, for example, they had a program that they wanted to host on federal contracting. And so they had connections at the SBA, and the Veterans Business Group needed someplace to host that event. Obviously, the library is a great place for this. And so they're bringing in people because they're advertising who maybe never been to my library before. And then at the beginning of that event, I'm talking about the business services, that we do here at the library. So, that can be a great way to start. It can also take a little bit of the pressure off you if you're feeling like you're not quite ready to do something like that on your own. There are organizations that might be happy to partner with you.
If I can just add in, first of all, agree with what Trevor said, and I wish I had mentioned that earlier. Use your organizations to provide all that information that's not your expertise. Like we all said, we're librarians. We know how to do research really well. We're not advisors as much as we are learning in the process. So yeah, take advantage of having those partners give the programs. And as far as what you can do for your people who are existing business owners, I agree. Sales leads is a great way to go. That's something they're always looking for, no matter where they are in their business. A lot of people come in and say, how do I grow my business, and what's the next step, and what's like kind of cheap and easy ways for me to do that. So we might offer something on like marketing on a shoestring budget, and try to show people how to find more customers. One of the resources we invested in is called Cision. It's a public relations database, so that people, if you're at that point in your business and maybe you want to start doing reaching out to the press, I've done programs for businesses that are trying to grow about how to reach out to the press and how to find contacts. So it's more difficult to come up with programs for them who are already in business, but we do our best. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Natalie. I'm going to squeeze one more question in, and then I think we'll conclude our webcast. And this one is, again, for Natalie and Trevor. If you have any statistics on how many small business initiators and how many accomplished or use and apply your advice?
You want to take that, Trevor, while I look for my statistics?
Sure. So for a long time, I was tracking the number of consults I had every month. And that's a good way just to start. You know, if you have that business interaction, start tracking, because, I mean, if you're like a library who's looking to start, you know, these services, and the board is like, you know, like, how's this going to work? It's a great option, because you can then tell the board, hey, I had these interactions. This is what they needed. I also was kind of keeping track of the amount of contacts I was downloading from, you know, Demographics Now or Reference USA or A to Z, because there would be times where I would download 4,000 for a single company that was going to send out a mailer for, you know, something they were doing. And that's a significant amount. And our databases were getting really high usage because of the business outreach I was doing. And so if that's happening, that's another place to look for stats. But yes, I was definitely keeping track of the people that I spoke to every month and what they needed from the library.
Okay. Thanks, Trevor.
Sorry, I don't have an exact numbers to respond to that question with, unfortunately. I apologize. But we really try to, especially with our business plan competition, we try to follow up with our businesses to see, you know, are they still in business? How are they doing? How do they benefit from our program? What are the things that they found most useful? So I think surveying those people who really come through your programs, any of your programs is fine, but especially some of ours that are really attempting to get people on that first step to open their business or grow their business. So again, contact me if you want further details. I can do some research for you.
Okay. Thanks, Natalie. So thank you, everyone. Thanks to Natalie and Trevor and Angela. Thanks to everyone that attended today. This webcast will be archived, and we'll send you an email to let you know whenever that on-demand version is available, usually by the next day, by sometime tomorrow, that on-demand version will be up. You can find this webcast and other archived and upcoming webcasts in the events and PD section at libraryjournal.com. And we want to say take care and goodbye to everyone. We'll see you on our next webcast. Thanks.